There are literally millions of real estate articles discussing mistakes home sellers make. However, a majority of those articles list the most common mistakes made, like overpricing their home or having showing restrictions. While common mistakes can certainly prohibit a home sale, they're not the only types of mistakes that sellers make. Hey, it's Tamra, your Utah Realtor. As an agent, I've come across this a few times with my clients in my 13 years as a realtor. While common mistakes can certainly prohibit a home sale, they're not the only types of mistakes that sellers make. Sometimes there are off-the-wall mistakes that nobody discusses until now. So, I'm here to share with you 7 of the off-the-wall mistakes home sellers have made, are making, or will make. All right, here we go. Contacting the buyer's agent. Some sellers don't see the harm in contacting the buyer's agent. Don't contact the buyer's agent directly, regardless of your reason. There are types of contact that should be avoided at all costs. Sellers need to let their listing agent do their job, and that's why you hired them in the first place. If they want feedback from their showing agent, their listing agent needs to call. If they're upset by something going on in a transaction, they need to have a conversation with their agent. And if their agent deems it necessary to contact that buyer's agent, then they should be the ones to do so. Why? For starters, agents never want to talk to people that aren't their clients. Secondly, they may create a situation or make a bad situation worse. There are sellers who have contacted the buyer's agent to yell at them because closing was delayed. This accomplishes absolutely nothing. Then there are the sellers who contact the buyer's agent in the midst of a transaction to tell them how desperate they are to close ASAP. Guess what? When the closing was delayed and the listing agent went to negotiate a credit to extend the contract, the buyer's agent knew they didn't have to pay a dime due to the seller's desperation. While sellers feel they may know best, odds are they don't. An experienced agent has encountered many obstacles throughout their career and knows how to handle them. And if they don't, they will most certainly have a broker who does. Social media. It's not uncommon for sellers and buyers to share their real estate journey online. Don't! Believe it or not, buyers and even real estate agents will investigate a seller trying to figure out their position. Are they going through a divorce and desperate to sell? Did the seller's employer transfer them? Is the seller going to accept an offer? But the listing agent is trying to get a little more. Posting these types of things online can negatively impact a home sale, even if the seller's accounts are private. The world is smaller than people think, especially when you're buying or selling real estate in the area you currently reside in. Also, switching appliances. I've seen this happen so many times. Real estate contracts spell out what's included in a home sale, such as appliances. While some contracts state the refrigerator, the range, dishwasher are included, it's not brand or model specific. However, the contract isn't referring to any refrigerator, range, or dishwasher. It's the ones currently in the home. So sellers cannot remove their $40,000 appliances and replace them with $2,000 appliances. Yes, this has and will happen, so it's not uncommon for real estate agents or buyers to take pictures and write down serial numbers of the appliances if it's not included in the contract. The same goes for fixtures such as curtain rods, lighting. If there are any items a seller wants to exclude from the sale, no matter what it is, it must be part of the contract. This way, there won't be any surprises at the final walkthrough before closing. Sellers need to avoid these types of mistakes, which can inevitably delay closing or possibly bring on a lawsuit. Post-it notes. I'm sure this is one you had not thought of. There is zero reason for a seller to put post-it notes all over their home, pointing out features or listing instructions. Home buyers can see that the cabinets are 42 inches high and that the master bedroom has closets, has built-ins. While post-it notes are handy, they're ugly and can take away from the overall appeal of a home and how it shows. If there are features a buyer won't be able to see, then it should be added to the MLS description and mentioned to the buyer's agent if it's necessary. Also, sellers need to keep in mind what they consider an upgrade isn't always an upgrade. Sometimes it's standard or outdated and should never be highlighted. Refusing to leave. Yes, it's true. Some sellers change their mind about selling their home and decide not to move. The obvious issue with this is they signed a legal binding contract, selling their home to another party. Sometimes reality hits them, they pack up their belongings and close. Other times they don't, which very well could end up in a buyer filing a lawsuit against them. Before a seller lists their home for sale, they need to make sure this is exactly what they really want to do. They also need to know where they're going to ensure they're not scrambling at the very last minute. All right, covering up mold on walls and ceilings or anywhere for that matter. Mold is a serious issue and can be deadly, so it should never be taken lightly. However, some sellers think spraying a little bleach, painting over the area will be sufficient enough. It's not. Sellers need to determine why they have mold. Is it a plumbing leak or a roof leak? Once they find the source, they need to have it fixed. Depending on the cause, it may be covered by your homeowner's insurance. Then they should have the mold professionally remediated and tested to ensure the problem has been rectified. The seller also needs to disclose this information to all potential buyers. Will it scare some buyers away? Absolutely. But if it's professionally remediated and a clean certificate is provided, it will put a lot of buyers at ease. Sellers who decide to do it themselves, cover it up, and not disclose it could possibly face a lawsuit. Now, not factoring in liens. It's rare, but sometimes sellers don't think or realize the line of equity they have on their home needs to be paid at closing. The same goes for any other type of financial liens they've taken out against their home. Liens on a home have to be paid at closing, which may net a seller less than expected. In some cases, the seller may even have to bring money to closing or try to qualify for a short sale. While a top listing agent will educate a seller on this aspect of the selling process, some sellers don't know or forget they have liens. It's rare, but it happens. Now, an experienced agent will order a preliminary title report once the listing has been secured, typically through a title company they have used before and have know that they can be a trusted resource. A preliminary title report is something buyers and sellers look at to see if there are complications that may arise when the title is being transferred. Complications may include things such as liens on the property or outstanding taxes. So it's imperative sellers know what mortgages and liens are on the property and the amount owed for each. This amount then needs to be added to all of the closing fees and subtracted from the projected sales price. This is the number the seller will net, and it needs to work for them. Otherwise, they may put themselves in a position that they don't want to be in at closing. Some final thoughts. Sometimes lack of education or common sense can create unnecessary obstacles for a home seller in a real estate transaction. However, if they hire a top realtor, a majority of these issues can be avoided. Just keep in mind, not all real estate agents are created equal, so a seller really needs to screen their listing agents before they hire one. Home selling mistakes can negatively impact a home appraisal, which might just blow up the transaction altogether if the home under appraises. Now, if the home buyer is paying cash, they may move forward. However, if the buyer is obtaining financing, the home needs to appraise. If it doesn't, the seller needs to decrease the contracted price to the appraised price, or the buyer can come up with the difference. Another option is for the seller and buyer to try meeting in the middle. One of the most common mistakes home sellers make is hiring what we call the lying agent, the one who tells them everything they want to hear, that their home will defy the odds and sell well above market value, even though it won't. It's show ready, even though it's a complete mess and has so much deferred maintenance. Sellers need a top realtor who's going to tell them the truth, even when it's not what they want to hear. Sellers aren't the ones who make mistakes, buyers do too. Whether a person is buying or selling, they really need to hire an agent who can guide them through the process. By doing so, they should be able to avoid the majority of these mistakes that home buyers and sellers make. As always, feel free to reach out to me, Tamra Simons, your Utah Realtor, for anything community or real estate related. And until next time, make it a great home buying and selling day.